Well, hello, I'm Forgiveness Willie or Miracle Willie, teaching Course in Miracles. Actually, I think of myself as a forgiveness teacher from the Ozarks. And here we're ready for Lesson 22. We're reading from the Foundation for Inner Peace version of Course in Miracles here on Wednesday, January 22nd of 2025. And I think we're going to just sing through the lesson. It's a short lesson, half a page long roughly. And there's a little exercise we do for 1 minute where we look around and tell ourselves what I see as a form of vengeance. And we'll do it here when we open, and then we'll do it again when we close. What I see is a form of vengeance. What I see is a form of vengeance. Today's idea accurately describes anyone who holds attack thoughts. Anyone who holds attack thoughts in his mind must see the world, having projected his anger onto the world. He sees vengeance about to strike at him. His own attack is thus perceived as self-defense. This becomes an increasingly vicious cycle until he is willing to change how he sees. Otherwise, thoughts of attack and counterattack will preoccupy him and people his entire world. What peace of mind is possible to him then? It is from this savage fantasy that you want to escape. Is it not joyous news to hear that is not real? Is it not joyous news to hear that it is not real? Is it not a happy discovery to find that you can escape? You made what you would destroy. You made what you would destroy. Everything that you hate and would attack and kill. All that you fear does not exist. All that you fear does not exist. Look at the world about you at least 5 times today, for at least a minute each time, and look about. And as you're looking about, say, I see only the perishable. I see nothing that will last. What I see is not real. What I see is not real. What I see is a form of vengeance. At the end of each practice period, ask yourself, is this the world I really want? Really want to see? Is this the world I really want to see? Really want to see? The answer is surely obvious. Okay, now we've gone through the lesson. Now let's go ahead and actually look around and do that little 1 minute practice period. And as we look around, we say, what I see is a form of vengeance. I see only the perishable. I see only the perishable. I see only what will last. I see nothing that will last. I see nothing that will last. What I see is not real. What I see is not real. What I see is a form of vengeance. What I see is a form of vengeance. Let's do it once again. What I see is a form of vengeance. I see only the perishable. I see only the perishable. I see nothing that will last. I see nothing that will last. What I see is not real. What I see is not real. What I see is a form of vengeance. Is this the world I really want? Is this the world I really want to see? The answer is surely obvious. The answer is surely obvious. What I see is a form of vengeance. What I see is a form of vengeance. And here we're thinking we're attacked by something outside of us, but it's really our own minds that made everything, based on the idea that we still believe in guilt thoughts. So we're learning to see another world where innocence is reality until it becomes so complete and perfect that it blossoms into wisdom. Okay, let's go take a look now at, we'll close with that, just the meditation or the looking around, telling yourself, I see only the perishable. I see nothing that will last. What I see is not real. What I see is a form of vengeance. And then he says, when you end that little mind, or it's an open-eyed meditation this time, looking around for a minute, 5 times today. And at the end, tell yourself, is this the world I really want to see? And the answer is surely obvious. You don't have to say that, but it is. Okay, let's see. Let's go take a look now at Roman numeral 4 in chapter 3, the innocent perception. Let me take my hat off so you can, when I bend my eyes down to look at the book, you can still see my face. Some people want to be able to see the person that's reading. I mean, it makes it a little easier, particularly if you read lips. Anyway, error and the ego. The abilities you now possess are only shadows of your real strength. All of your present functions are divided and open to question and doubt. This is because you are not certain how you will use them and are therefore incapable of knowledge. You are also incapable of knowledge because you can still perceive lovelessly. Perception did not exist until the separation introduced degrees, aspects, and intervals. Spirit has no levels, and all conflict arises from the concept of levels. Pull my little hood up. It's just a little chilly out here, actually. Let's at least block a little wind. You can still see my face, too. A little bit. Okay, spirit has no levels, and all conflict arises from the concept of levels. Is this indeed where we're supposed to be reading today? Let's make sure that this is it. I think it is. Yep, it's the right place. Okay. I study it 2 or 3 times before the lesson, and so sometimes I forget which one we read the day before. And I mark it in my book, but I sometimes make mistakes. As you all have probably followed along and read with me, realize I make some nice blunders of the words occasionally. Try to go back and correct any of them that are completely opposite of what Steve was trying to say. Only the levels of, okay, spirit has no levels, and all conflict arises from the concept of levels. Only the levels of the Trinity are capable of unity. The levels created by the separation cannot but conflict. This is because they are meaningless to each other. They don't have any meaning. They don't have any cohesiveness, no one body mentality, one mind, one organism. You think you're a separate cell doing your own thing. That's what cancer does. Okay, paragraph 2. Maybe we taught our bodies to do cancer because our higher consciousness, or the higher that we thought we were in this world, it believes in vengeance, so we created a vengeful cell organism. I'm pretty confident that that's what happens, and we're probably going to go beyond that. But we may still be there. I don't, anyway, we're making our ascent, aren't we? Paragraph 2. Consciousness, the level of perception, was the first split introduced into the mind after the separation. Consciousness, the level of perception, was the first split introduced into the mind after the separation, making the mind a perceiver rather than a creator. Consciousness is correctly identified as the domain of the ego. Isn't that something? The ego, and here he's going to define the ego. The ego is a wrong-minded attempt to perceive yourself as you wish to be rather than as you are. Isn't that something? Made an image of yourself that's not according to reality. False image, an idol. Believing you're separate from the all, separate from love, vulnerable, have to defend yourself, all those things. Like, that's why the world, what I see is a form of vengeance. I see only the perishable. I see nothing that will last. What I see is not real. What I see is a form of vengeance. Our lesson for today? No, that's right. This is why. The ego is a wrong-minded attempt to perceive yourself as you wish to be rather than as you are. Yet you can know yourself only as you are, because that is all you can be sure of. Everything else is up to question. And that's what we're learning by being peaceful and checking in with ourselves, making sure we stay peaceful. And when not, ask for the atonement. And how do you get it? By practicing forgiveness, let go of what's not real so that you make room for what is real, your reality, Godness, love. Paragraph 3. The ego is the questioning aspect of the post-separation self, which was made rather than created. It is capable of asking questions, but not of perceiving meaningful answers, because these would involve knowledge and cannot be perceived. The mind is therefore confused, because only one-mindedness can be without confusion. A separated or divided mind must be confused. It is necessarily uncertain about what it is. It has to be in conflict because it is out of accord with itself. This makes its aspects strangers to each other, and this is the essence of the fear-prone condition in which attack is always possible. You have every reason to feel afraid as you perceive yourself. This is why you cannot escape from fear until you realize that you did not and could not create yourself. You can never make your misperceptions true, and your creation is beyond your own error. That is why you must eventually choose to heal the separation. We're going to all eventually choose to heal the separation that we've made. There's just so much there. We are so blessed to have these ideas so we can take them into our quiet times and kind of look at them. Particularly you students that have been through the course multiple times, you can take these ideas and sit with them, because you probably want to keep doing your longer quiet times, even though he's only requiring us to do 5 minutes or 5 minutes today, 5 times for 1 minute or so. But even though that's all he requires for us today, you students that have been practicing a while, and even some of you new students might want to sit with some of these ideas and just turn them over in your head. And particularly new students that have had years of meditation practice or even a year, and you're accustomed to sitting still and quiet. Take some of these ideas like that last paragraph we just read, paragraph 3 in chapter 3, section 4, and roll that over in your mind for a little while. Read it a time or two, and then sit still and or maybe even peek occasionally and look at it again, but try to take it into the stillness. And we are so blessed to have these concepts, save us so much time trying to figure it all out, recreating the wheel again ourselves. Instead, Jesus said, here's the ideas you need to look at. Here's what's true, and here's what you've tended to do. Okay, paragraph 4. Right-mindedness is not to be confused with the knowing mind, because it is applicable only to right perception. You can be right-minded or wrong-minded, and even this is subject to degrees, clearly demonstrating that knowledge is not involved. The term right-mindedness is properly used as the correction of wrong-mindedness and applies to the state of mind that induces accurate perception. It is miracle-minded because it heals misperception. And this is indeed a miracle in view of how you perceive yourself. Let's read that again just because it's so funny in my mind. I laugh a lot when I read this book, just Jesus' wisdom and just the way he presents things without so innocently. The term right-mindedness is properly used as the correction for wrong-mindedness, the fear-prone state, and is properly used as the correction for wrong-mindedness, and applies to the state of mind that induces accurate perception. It is miracle-minded because it heals misperception. And this is indeed a miracle in view of how you perceive yourself. Paragraph 5. Perception always involves some misuse of mind because it brings the mind into areas of uncertainty. The mind is very active. When it chooses to be separate, it chooses to perceive. Until then, it wills only to know. Afterwards, it can only choose ambiguously, and the only way out of ambiguity is clear perception, ambiguously and ambiguity. Until then, it wills only to know. Afterwards, it can only choose ambiguously. And the only way out of ambiguity is clear perception. The mind returns to its proper function only when it wills to know. This returns it to this places it in the service of spirit, where perception is changed. The mind chooses to divide itself when it chooses to make its own levels, but it could not entirely separate itself from spirit, because it is from spirit that it derives its whole power to make or create. Even in miscreation, the mind is affirming its source, and that word source is capitalized, because even in miscreation, you're still affirming that there's a creator. And I stopped in the middle of that sentence. Even in miscreation, the mind is affirming its source, or it would merely cease to be. And this is impossible because the mind belongs to spirit, which God created, and which is therefore eternal. Which means you're eternal whether you know it or not. Might as well know it, huh? Paragraph 6. The ability to perceive made the body possible because you must perceive something with something. That is why perception involves an exchange or translation which knowledge does not need. The interpretive function of perception, a distorted form of creation, then permits you to interpret the body as yourself in an attempt to escape from the conflict you have induced. Spirit, which knows, could not be reconciled with this loss of power because it is incapable of darkness. This makes spirit almost inaccessible to the mind and entirely inaccessible to the body. Wow, almost inaccessible to the mind. Almost. There's some hope here, huh? Therefore, thereafter, spirit is perceived as a threat, because light abolishes darkness merely by showing you it is not there. So so that once you separate from the spirit, and you know that spirit is light, is what he's saying, that your ego will be threatened by it, because it'll abolish its ignorance, its idea that it's separated on. Let me read it again. Oh, let's see. Spirit which knows could not be reconciled with this loss of power, because it is incapable of darkness. This makes spirit almost inaccessible to the mind and entirely inaccessible to the body. Thereafter, spirit is perceived as a threat, because light abolishes darkness merely by showing you it is not there. Of course, that's the upside down way of seeing it. It's a threat only to the ego, who doesn't know what it is, and it's an illusion anyway. Truth will always overcome error in this way. And how will it? By abolishing darkness. Because the light will come and just abolish darkness, because where the light is, there's no darkness. There's no untruth anymore. So truth will always overcome error in this way. This cannot be an active process of correction, because, as I have already emphasized, knowledge does not do anything. It can be perceived as an attacker, but it cannot attack. What you perceive as its attack is your own vague recognition that knowledge can always be remembered, never having been destroyed. And the last paragraph, 7. God and his creations remain in surety, and therefore know that no miscreation exists. Because surety, to remain surety means to be like responsible for another person's care, and essentially acting as surety and ensuring the other party's wishes are carried out. So, there's a part of you that's God is surety for that part of you that is reality in you, and it's going to make sure that comes to completion. God and his creations remain in surety, and therefore know that no miscreation exists. Truth cannot deal with errors that you want. I was a man who remembered spirit and its knowledge. As a man, I did not attempt to counteract error with knowledge, but to correct error from the bottom up. I demonstrated both the powerlessness of the body and the power of the mind. By uniting my will with that of my Creator, I naturally remembered spirit and its real purpose. I cannot unite your will with God's for you, but I can erase all misperceptions from your mind if you will bring it under my guidance. Only your misperceptions stand in your way. Those idols we've made, those beliefs we're holding, the vengeful world we think is real, the loss, lapse in seeing innocence. Without them, your choice is certain. Only your misperceptions stand in your way. Without them, your choice is certain. Sane perception induces sane choosing. I cannot choose for you, but I can help you make your own right choice. Many are called, but few are chosen. He's quoting a verse that he was recorded him saying in Matthew chapter 22:14, and he's going to give a little more clarity. Many are called, but few are chosen. Should be all are called, but few choose to listen. I like that, huh? Therefore, they do not choose right. The chosen ones are merely those who choose right sooner. Right minds can do this now, and they will find rest unto their souls. God knows you only in peace, and this is your reality. Wow. Okay, I love that. Okay, let's see. Let's see what's going on around the world now. Okay, it's the birth of the Bab, who was the kind of, I think of him as a prophet for the Baha'is. He's the one that announced, he was born in 1819 and died in 1850, but he announced that there'd be a a way shower coming. His name, anyway, his name came later, and his name was Baha'u'llah. Anyway, the Baha'is believe in the unity of man, and that we're getting ready to have that the Baha'u'llah and other enlightened beings are here to show us how to have a beautiful world. Are we going to listen? Celebration of Life Day. Okay, good day to thanks for being alive, being on planet Earth. I found the rest of these on holidays and observances. Come in from the cold day. I thought about sitting by the fire this morning, but I thought, no, I kind of like going outside. I'd come out and take care of my birds and the animals anyway. Dance of the Seven Veils. That's a story about Salome, who danced for Herod and where ended up John the Baptist had his head chopped off because of it. His wife Herodias' daughter danced. You can read about it in Mark chapter 6, verse 17 through 29, and Matthew 14, verse 3 through 12, if you're interested in looking at it. But anyway, Oscar Wilde wrote the story, because there's really not, the Bible doesn't talk about the Dance of the Seven Veils, but Oscar Wilde made a story about it. Roe versus Wade Day, that happened on this day in 1973, and of course it was overruled by the Supreme Court back in June 24th, 2022. Weedless Wednesday, a day not to smoke, huh? Okay, and let's see, out of edible landscaping, we're going to the pomegranates now. And the first one they've got is the Adams, I said pomegranates, we're going to the elderberry now. Like I said, I make plenty of words that I didn't mean. Adams elderberry is a native elderberry. Very juicy berries, excellent for elixirs, pies, syrups, wines, etc. Late ripening and heavy producer. Pollinates with other native elderberries. Very large flower heads. Height 6 to 12 feet. Space 10-foot circles. Zones 3 through 9. Okay, well, big growing area. Okay, and then our word for peace, let's take it from the Vietnamese people. And the word is Hoa Binh. So our Vietnamese brothers and sisters, the word they use for peace is Hoa Binh. And if any of you all know that I'm saying it with the wrong pronunciation, or I could do better, please let me know. Let's take just a minute and close with our song. And we'll just do the looking around and take a minute. We barely have much more than that. Okay, what I see is a form of vengeance. What I see is a form of vengeance. I see only the perishable. I see only the perishable. Look around and say it to yourself. I see nothing that will last. I see nothing that will last. What I see is not real. What I see is not real. What I see is a form of vengeance. What I see is a form of vengeance. I see only the perishable. I see only the perishable. I see nothing that will last. I see nothing that will last. What I see is not real. What I see is not real. What I see is a form of vengeance. What I see is a form of vengeance. And play that song 2 or 3 times if you have a hard time remembering what to say. But you could just put it in your own words. But just look around 5 times, Dave, for a minute and say what we just say. What I see is a form of vengeance. Hoa Binh. What I see is a form of vengeance. Hoa Binh.